The 1982 season in Trans Am featured many of the best and brightest in American road racing. Competition among the drivers really began to heat up. In fact, the average margin of victory for the series champion, Elliott Forbes Robinson, was a scant 5.5 seconds. EFR also helped Pontiac to their first ever Trans Am manufacturer's title. The 82 season was highlighted at Brainerd by the driving performance of an individual whose name is far better known outside racing circles. Paul Newman in a Bob Sharp Datsun 280ZX sat on the pole and led wire to wire. The 18th season of the Trans Am Championship would be one of the most important in the series history. The 12 events run in 1983 were the most since 1969. The Budweiser Trans Am Series sponsorship offered a much-needed boost in prize money and visibility. Budweiser was also involved in sponsoring what became one of the most dominant teams in Trans Am since the Penske-Donahue team of 1968. Neil Diatley, a Portland, Oregon entrepreneur, teamed with John Dick and drivers David Hobbs, Willie T. Ribbs, and for a couple of races, Jerry Brassfield and John Paul Jr. to destroy the competition.
And about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, the phone rang. And I went into the kitchen, and it was a wall phone, it was the closest one. Hi, it says, this is John Dick calling from Portland, Oregon. Oh, yeah. And he says, yeah, I'd like to drive in the Trans Am next year. I said, well, yeah, probably be pretty good. And he said, oh, yeah, we got this great team. He said, Mr. Diatley, Neil Diatley, he's a big contractor up here in Portland. He's putting together a team. We got Budweiser sponsorship. We got help from Chevrolet. We got Camaros. Your teammate's probably going to be a guy called Willie T. Ribbs. And we're going to do the Trans Am, and we'll probably win it. Yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I hung up, went back to my wife and said, you know, some usual guy, you know, because you get a lot of phone calls out, you know, if I put this deal together, will you drive? And, you know, and they never ever come out. Well, geez, I don't know, in about 3 weeks, I'm out in Portland on a ticket. There's this Camaro. I go testing at Portland, break the lap record by about 3 seconds, and things are starting to look sort of, this might actually happen. Well, of course, as they say, the rest is history, because I went on to win 4 of the races. Willie won 5. I placed better than him in the others, and we came first and second in the championship. In fact, most of the races we came first and second.
The immaculately prepared Camaros won all but 2 of the 10 races on the season and collected $155,000 in winnings, a remarkable 28% of the available total. With the help of the Diatley team, Chevrolet vaulted to its 9th Makers Cup. Lynn St. James would run a Tom Gloy-prepared Mercury Capri in the 1983 series and become the most successful woman driver yet to appear on the tour.
My standard belief is that we need more women in racing, but the women that are in racing, myself included, need to do well to make a difference. In other words, it's not important that we're just there. We don't need women to just show up. We need women to be competitive. We need women to run well. That's what's going to make a difference.
The 1984 series featured a record 16 events. The new rules formula clearly created a competitive playing field for the manufacturers, teams, and drivers. In addition, there were increased prize monies, the lack of which had burdened the series in the 1970s. The Trans Am was quickly becoming the premier road racing series for stock-appearing race cars in the U.S. The defending champion Diatley team would switch to the untested and, as it turned out, uncompetitive Corvettes in '84. To make matters worse for the Diatley team, the first race of the year was marked by a controversial incident involving Diatley's driver Willie T. Ribbs and rookie Bob Lobenberg.
In the warm-up, he and Bob Lobenberg had a bit of a run-in. Bob Lobenberg was driving the Huffaker Pontiac and I was following them. And as they went down the straight, Lobenberg did screw around with Willie. You know, he sort of didn't, I don't know whether he really blocked him, but he kept on getting in the way. And Willie wanted to get by, but this was only warm-up. And then as we drew into the pits afterwards, I mean, Willie just jumped straight out of his car, ran back down the pit lane and belted Lobenberg through the window of his car, where he was just still sitting in the car. And I mean, the SCCA, they found him, didn't they? I'm sure they found him. Anyway, Neil Diatley and John Dick took Willie aside and remonstrated with him, you know, to tell him to, you know, you just can't do that sort of thing, you know, even if he was irritating. And I had said, you know, well, Bob Lobenberg did irritate him, there's no doubt about it. I didn't see the blow because I was still sitting in my car, but I mean, old Willie just jumped straight out and this all happened behind me. And I said, yeah, Bob Lobenberg did sort of ask for it in a way because he'd screwed him around a bit, but you still shouldn't get out of the car and go popping people, especially just in the warm-up. This isn't the race or anything. And Willie was incredibly personally abusive and rude to John Dick. I mean, excessively so. And left, and of course Ford picked him up just like that because he was obviously a quick driver. And they were all crowing to us about how they would show us, you know. And then about a year and a half later, because he left Ford under the similar sort of circumstances.
The green flag hadn't even dropped for 1984, and one of the series' top contenders was out. Ribbs quit the team on the spot, and the SCCA fined Ribbs $1,000 for his actions. Willie T had always attracted a lot of attention, much of it controversial.
What they say doesn't matter. What they think doesn't matter, and it doesn't count. They were competitors. I was winning, and maybe they weren't. Maybe they felt a little bit bad about it. I was having fun, and I was trying to make the series entertaining for the fans and for those sponsors who were involved. I was not doing anything that put their lives in jeopardy, or I wasn't doing anything to embarrass the sport. I think it might have been sour grapes on their part because I was doing well.
Ribbs would return for the 5th race of the season in a Jack Roush-prepared Mercury Capri. He would play a major role in the championship, even if he had, for all practical purposes, eliminated his own chances of a driver's title by being out of the series for 4 races. Ribbs' 4 wins for Roush, along with Greg Pickett's 4 victories and series champion Tom Gloy's 3 wins in his Gloy Sports Capri, gave maker's honors to Lincoln Mercury. Gloy claimed the driver's title by the second-to-last race of the year at Green Valley's Texas Challenge. A redoubled effort for Lincoln Mercury in '85 featured the returning Gloy effort and Roush Racing, with Ribbs and new driver Wally Dallenbach Jr., who sparkled during '84 with a 4th place in the championship. 1985 featured one of the most hotly contested championships in Trans Am history. Dallenbach Jr. and Ribbs traded wins race after race, taking all but 3 events that year. Ribbs would lead more laps, take more wins and more poles, but his teammate Wally Dallenbach Jr. would take the title, making Wally the youngest Trans Am champion ever at the age of 22. The manufacturer's title was much more fun to watch than the driver's championship in the 1986 series. Wally Dallenbach Jr. would be the first to win back-to-back driver's crown since Bob Tullius won the Category 1 class in 1977 and 1978. Surprisingly, Dallenbach's title didn't come with the defending champion Roush team, but rather behind the wheel of the Protofab team Camaro. During the off-season, many of the key players of the Jack Roush organization jumped ship to form Protofab. This new group gained Chevrolet factory backing and then stole the driving talents of Dallenbach Jr. away from Roush to complete the power play. Despite Dallenbach's runaway drivers' championship, Roush managed to put together a combined Capri-Mercure effort, garnering 6 wins with 4 different drivers, snatching the maker's title from Chevy by 9 points to give Lincoln Mercury its 3rd title in a row. The first of Roush's wins would come at the very beginning of the season. The driver of the car, a then unknown, would take the first Trans Am race he ever entered.
It was really a storybook. I mean, if anything, a storybook race for me. My main emphasis was with Ford Motor Company and the GTO series, which I won a championship that year. I had a race on Saturday in Charlotte, North Carolina. Right after that race, which I think we finished 3rd, I believe, 3rd or 4th, caught the airplane out, got in late that night into LA, drove out to Riverside, got up early the next morning, went out to the track, registered. I mean, I hadn't even joined SCCA at that point in time, or SCCA at that point in time. And I started last, and then throughout the race, just kept working my way up, working my way up, working my way up. 2 laps from the end, took the lead, won the race, and it was awesome.
With a full season of running the Mercures under their belt, the Roush team came to the '87 series as the team to beat. Scott Pruitt and Pete Halsmer would run the full season in the XR4 TIs. The domination of the Roush team over the past 4 years had been overpowering. By the end of 1987, Lincoln Mercury could claim 37 wins, 75 top 3 finishes, and 28 poles in a mere 56 races. At the final race of the year in St. Petersburg, Florida, tragedy struck the Trans Am for the first time in 17 years, when Jim Fitzgerald, a longtime SCCA competitor, was killed.